So I recently participated in the Spanish Nationals, and this is going to be another one of my go-throughs of how I plan for that tournament, for the missions that I'm going to play. As of recording this, I don't know how it went, but this will be the third mission played. It will be meeting engagement. Let's go. So, meeting engagement in the Spanish Championship variants. It's a kill point mission, and you get 1 victory point per dice that you kill. The mission parameters are: there is no hidden deployment, there is no preparatory bombardment, there is first wave, you can have reserves, you can have forward deployment, and you can have outflanking. There is also a secondary objective worth 10 bonus kill points. That doesn't count for who's winning the mission, they only count after the game has finished for secondaries in case of ties. So that is the parameters. As such, this should lend itself really well to most of my armies. Typically, my armies do well in kill point missions because I build them to kill and I build them to survive. So, how do I win? Well, the first one is kill more of the enemy than I lose of mine. This should be well suited to veterans. I'm running veterans at the Spanish Nationals, of course. I'm running my Gurkhas, so Gurkha veterans. That should be fairly durable. Um, what is not so durable is my small teams and my vehicles. So those are I'm going to have to be a little bit clever about. But the veterans should be fairly safe. Um, but if I play it too conservatively, I might end up in a draw where I don't get all the kill points that I need. So should I go all out attack? That can be very dangerous. Like if I push very early on, then I'm very liable to be counterattacked. So it really depends on the list that I'm going to go up against. So I'm going to have to be very clever about it. A good counterattack, for instance, against like assault units that I'm running, Gurkhas, will be flamethrowers in Dodges or Jeeps, right? So that is always that's a problem that I'm going to have to face. Does my enemy have that? Is that something that can take me out? I'm going to have to look through the lists once I know who I'm playing and figure out what is this list trying to do? What is dangerous to me? Um, can't stay too far back though either, because if my enemy has a lot of HE or a lot of multi-rocket launchers, then I'm going to get shot to pieces by that. So I'm going to have to find the right balance against that list. Um, the best thing you can do is to get ahead by a couple of kill dice and then not push. That because then if you have like two more than your opponent does, then you are going to win. Um, which means it will force my opponent to come at me, which typically, like we have a saying in the Danish national team, the one who attacks first loses first. Um, so that will typically be a bad idea, but it is possible to win like that, but it does mean that I'm going to have to be very, very careful about controlling how many kills he can get, which might not always be possible. So, kill more, the plan. I'm going to try and have to encourage the enemy to split up his forces. I do this by focusing on my forward artillery observer, making very sure my opponent is very aware that I'm putting him down, that he's very aware of what the forward artillery observer can do, how far, and all of that. When I'm firing him, I'm going to make a big deal of it because I want him to spread out. I want him to have that psychological reaction that, ooh, maybe this is a bad idea clumping up, spread out. At the same time, I have a multi-rocket launcher on the list that also does the same. So I'm again going to have to encourage him to spread out. I'm going to talk to him about these things, and this is a psychological game. If he spreads out, that will mean that I can bring my whole force to bear on one point via first wave, because I'm going to have everything in first wave. I'm going to like rush everything, and most of my stuff, I guess, is going to go in the LVT. if I can find somewhere good for the LBT to go, preferably into an area terrain so that I have light cover, hard cover, um, and then I can unload whatever I need to unload into towards his place, right? That means that I get the 9-inch movement from the LBT and then the 12-inch movement out of the LBT. So that's a lot of movement toward. I'm almost on the center line by turn 2, um, which would be really good, right? And if he splits up his force, that means I can hit him before he gets a chance to reposition and support his own men. Um, I think I also need to focus close enough to the center, to the secondary objective that's in the dead center of the board, to be able to grab, or at least dedicate some units to contest or grab it turn 5 or 6. But that should be possible if I just like focus on one half of the table and like go a little bit beyond the center and then just push like maybe 12 inches or something like that. The all-out attack plan, this one involves a rush towards one flank, so a little bit further out, again via first wave. I will usually fire the forward artillery observer turn 2 or 3, and then have all the infantry disembark from the LBT when I'm way down in the zone. I might even run the LBT in first turn and then move and disembark second turn, because that will bring me all the way down to his deployment zone more or less. And then start assaulting early turn 3 or 4 as the preparatory bombardment hopefully has pinned my enemy to the point where his counter like shooting doesn't really work. But attacking headlong like that is dangerous, especially if my enemy has reserves, especially if my enemy has flamers, or if my enemy manages to go in ambush. And at the same time, I'm really relying on the artillery observer being able to pin out that flank that I'm hitting. Also, I'll be far away from the center, so the secondary may not be possible if I go all-out attack. Getting ahead, just getting ahead by 2 kill points, and going on the defensive can be a little bit tricky. It means that my units will have to retreat behind line of sight blocking cover, or at least hard cover, as much as possible, and go on ambush as much as possible. The ambush will mean that the enemy is like discouraged from approaching. At the same time, I can go down if he has something that can shoot at me. I might also be able to damage enemy units as they are forced onto the attack to try and catch up to me. But as always, this is a dice game. The enemy might get a lucky 6, get a kill, and then all of a sudden I'm going to have to change my plan again. So I'm not a massive fan of doing this, although it is possible to do. Yeah, so which one will I do? Well, it all depends on who I'm facing and the terrain. But one of these three, I'm leaning more towards um, the central push, the first one, most of the time, because that also has the possibility of being able to change into either one of the others. But it is 3 plans that I have in mind when I go to the table and when I look at the list of my opponent. So yeah, that was it for me today. I will talk to you in the next one. Cheers.